Hi everyone and welcome to another tutorial. Here's the Insta360 X4, a 360-degree camera, which I will demonstrate you in this video from A to Z. How to take a video, a photo, how to edit all this kind of stuff, how to transfer it onto your phone to an external drive, how to work with the Insta360 Studio app, and I will show you all the necessary equipment that I use to record this video. You can actively support my channel if you buy the camera, the memory card, the ultra long selfie stick using the link provided in the video description below. And now let's get started. So some of the accessories I can recommend highly to you. First of all, you should get the camera. As you can see, the lenses at the moment are protected. However, you can not record a video like this because you will only see a black screen. To avoid this and to avoid any scratches on your lenses, I should recommend this one here. These ones are the premium lens guards. This is like a filter that comes on top of these two lenses. Then you should definitely get a second battery like this one here. It has more than 2200 milliamperes. And why you should get this anytime you run out of battery? Sure, you can use a power bank with quick charge to charge this camera. However, you will see the power bank on your final image then, and to avoid this I can recommend a second battery. A fast memory card is essential if you record 11, 8 or 5.7K videos with up to 60 frames per second, or even 120 frames per second if you do slow motion videos. I used the one from Insta360. It was sufficient enough to record an 8K video or even a 5.7K video with up to 120 frames per second. However, after I stopped the video, it took a while to buffer all these files, so I couldn't use the camera in the meantime. And to avoid this, I can recommend this memory card to you, which you can find in the video description below. Here's the quick reader, which you can use on your X4. You can put in the memory card and then you can do faster video editing using your phone with the Insta360 app. If you don't want to use this quick reader, I can recommend this 10-buck card reader, which also feature a micro SD and a normal SD slot to transfer the files onto your computer. If you require a power bank that has enough power to do quick charging using this camera, to do video editing at the same time while you charge this camera, your phone or your tablet at the same time, I can recommend this big boy to you. It has two USB Type-C ports, one USB Type-A port and 140 watts with more than 20,000 milliamperes. What I also use the Insta360 X4 is to record a video for my YouTube channel when I do a review about a certain camera or lens. Therefore, I got this mount adapter, which I can put onto my camera. On top, I will attach the X4, and then I have my photographer's perspective for my reviews. Let's say you don't want to get a drone, but you would like to get drone shots, then get the 3-meter Insta360 selfie stick. It looks so damn good. You can walk through really narrow streets where you won't usually put a drone in because you are afraid that you will crash the drone. However, with that selfie stick, you can put it out of your car, you can place it into the water, you can walk through streets which are really narrow. And by the way, the camera ignores the selfie stick, so you won't see that on your final image. If you would like to get better audio, then get the Insta360 mic adapter. And there's one thing to Insta360. I would welcome an invisible microphone. It would be perfect if this invisible microphone would be a wireless microphone. So anytime I have the camera attached to a 3-meter selfie stick and I would like to get these drone shots in some cool countries, and if I would like to speak to my audience, I still get the best audio quality directly from my shirt, from the camera, and I still have nice drone shots. How cool would that be? And what we also used quite a lot was this big suction cup here, which we placed onto our van. So we really got these kind of cool TimeShift, time lapses and video clips, which is also pretty cool because if you would like to go live with your audience, you can do that in your car while being connected to the Insta360 app. Then you can show your audience the inner from your car, so basically you, what your talk or whatever, and also the outside of the car. How cool would that be? That's the Insta360 X4 from all sides. You have a lens right here, the other lens right there in order to be able to record a 360-degree footage. On the lower side you get a standard tripod mount. You got a small LED right there, one button there, one button there, one button here and the other button there. This one here is for the extra wind protection that you can buy separately for this camera, since I took some video footage and tested the wind capabilities of this camera. I have attached these ones still here to the camera. Here is the USB Type-C port, which allows you to charge the camera and at the same time to transfer the files from the camera onto your computer. You can remove this flap to be able to attach the microphone adapter to this camera. And one easy way to remove the battery is push these two switches to the inner part of the battery. Inside you see the slot for the micro SD. If I push onto it, the SD card comes out and the colored side of this memory card needs to face inward. To get the battery back in place, push onto it, and as you have just seen, there were some orange parts of the battery. Anytime you see these ones, the battery is not protected against water. So before you jump into the ocean, make sure you don't see any orange signs here at the side. Let me show you once again. Now you see an orange part, now it's not protected against water. So I think it makes sense to give you the app first, which looks like this one here. That is the Insta360 app. Make sure to download this app. It's absolutely for free, and the connection between the camera and your phone is also for free. So I placed my camera somewhere in this room. It's on the same desk. It's right over there. And I think it makes sense to start with the app because it shows you on a large screen what the camera offers. The first thing you need to do is turn on your camera. Make sure you have switched on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth in order to find your camera. And then click on this icon right here, and the camera will pop up immediately. You select the camera which you want to connect to and make sure to confirm that on your camera screen. Once you export files onto your phone, you will see the Insta360 logo. If you don't want to see that logo, make sure to push that toggle switch right here to disable this function. Here's my Insta360 X4. I just switched it on, and here we are in my lovely room, as you can see here on my desk. So that is pretty cool. So I can move in a 360-degree space. I try to make it as quick and precise as possible. So let's start with this icon right here. Now you can see it. With these kind of settings, 5.7K, 50 frames per second, I can record for another 2 hours and 37 minutes and have 85% battery remaining at the moment. If you change anything, like we switch the resolution to 4K, 24 frames per second, I can now record for 5 hours and 3 minutes. So the lower the resolution and frame rate, the longer is your recording time. I already recorded a lot of clips, and in here are 512 gigabytes, and it's already 60% full, the card. If I want to change the color profile, make sure to tap on these three dots on top left: standard, vivid and flat profile if you would like to do color grading. Here I can change my field of view. Now I have selected ultra wide. If I select mega view, as you can see, it looks more like a fisheye look. And if I select D-Wrap, all the edges are tightened. You don't need to do that before you start recording, because you can change that anyways and during post-production here on the app straight away. So it doesn't really matter what field of view you have selected. It's just more a preview what you would get if you would have selected this field of view, but later on you can change that again. For instance, if you do snowboarding or skiing, I would probably go for mega view. If I would walk through a city, I would select probably ultra wide. And if I would like to get straight edges because I'm filming a room, for instance, for architecture, I would go for D-Rep. To change the resolution and the frame rate, you select this icon right here. So I can record in 8K with up to 30 frames per second, and that gives us 2 hours and 37 minutes of recording time. The settings I used most often is 5.7K, and I get often asked the question, what kind of frame rate do you use? If you would like to get the best low light performance, I would go for the lower frame rates between 24, 25 and 30 frames per second. If you're outside and it's super bright outside and you want to get a more fluent video while you do snowboarding, I would either go for 50 or 60 frames per second. If you live in Europe, you're more familiar probably to 25 and 50 frames per second. If you live in the States, it's probably 30 or 60 frames per second. Most of the time I use 5.7K, 25 frames per second, because I'm not shooting that many actions. On top here you can enable a histogram, a GPS. If you want to go for a manual exposure, you need to select this icon right here. If your video looks kind of overexposed, you can go down with the exposure compensation. And if your video always looks too dark, you can increase the exposure compensation. Here's the white balance, and if you want to go full manual to control the shutter speed, ISO and white balance, you can do that right here. I use auto for most of the cases. If you go on these 3 bars right here, you have all the modes in one place. You can select a Starlapse, burst, interval, HDR photo, photo, video, Timelapse, active HDR and bullet time, and I will go through all of them. Let's just record a video very quick. I just push this button right here, and if you see now something that is kind of important to you and you don't want to go through all your material, you can mark that with a flag. And now it's marked, and you will see that later on while you watch the file. Not on that file, but in the app. As you can see, right now I can move into my room. Even if it's recording, I can zoom out. Looks like a tiny planet. I can zoom in. I can mark it once again, and I can stop that video. Now it's saving. The quicker your read and write speed is of your micro SD, the faster it can save that file. Let's go into photo mode. Once you have seen how it works, it's basically all the same principle. I can take another 18,182 photos. Here I can select my field of view, and I can select if I want to take my pictures with 72 megapixels or 18 megapixels. Let's go for a 12K, which is 72 megapixels. I have selected a timer right there, 3 seconds. And now the camera took that picture, and as you can see, it takes a while because it needs to combine these 2 pictures from both lenses. If you select this icon right here, you can go for a pure shot, for instance, which enhances the overall exposure, which kind of gives you better performance during low light, and it looks really nice. If you would like to do, for instance, post-editing in Adobe Lightroom, you can also select a raw shot. And a pure shot, by the way, is always a JPEG. If you select these 3 dots right here, you have more settings. I can do also a manual exposure to my photos. If I'm taking a picture during the night and the camera stands on a tripod and I would like to get the best performance, of course I go for a low ISO value and a longer exposure time. And if I do sports or something, I go for a faster exposure time. See what the longest exposure time is 2 minutes. So you can expose your picture for 2 minutes. That's quite long. If you select these sliders right here, you have a timer function. If you would like to be on the same photo as your family, you can place the camera somewhere and the camera takes a picture of you. I've now selected the timer to off. That was the photo mode. HDR photo stands for high dynamic range. So anytime you have a lot of shadows and a lot of light, you should go for an HDR photo. That means the shadows, they don't look black anymore. You get more details into the shadows, while the sky won't be overexposed because it gives you an underexposure for the sky. And it combines these three photos, an underexposed, a normal exposed, and an overexposed photo together. And then you get kind of an equal contrast. It looks really nice during summer days. Interval is a feature which I don't really use often, to be honest. I never used it actually. But anytime you would like to document something, you're building a new house, for instance, then an interval picture would make sense. You can do that with up to 72 megapixels. And if you select these sliders right here, you see that you can select the duration of the interval. Let's say every 2 minutes, the camera would take now a photo. And here you can select the recording length. I would go for no limit because I can stop it anyways on the camera before missing something because the camera stopped because you selected, for instance, just 15 minutes. And as you can see, the principle is almost the same. Here we get the manual exposure, raw shot, pure shot, histogram, GPS. Burst mode is something anytime you do extreme activities and you would like to get a lot of shots after the other. For instance, if you do extreme skateboarding or something, then a burst would make sense. Number of burst photos, you can select them right here. You can select 15 photos in 10 seconds. You can also select 3 photos in 1 second. The only way to do it is just with 18 megapixels and not 72 megapixels anymore. As you can see, it takes quite a while if you don't have a fast memory card. That's a V30 and I would probably go for at least a V60 card because otherwise you can't use the camera. Starlapse, pretty amazing feature. It makes sense if you're somewhere where you don't have a lot of light pollution. If you go with your caravan in the Rocky Mountains or Grand Canyon, where you won't have that many lights, I would suggest you place your camera on a tripod. Then you go for a manual exposure. You can also select the outer one. And in here I would minimum select 20 or 25 seconds as an exposure time. A low ISO value to get the best image quality. The resolution is fixed to 18 megapixels and then the camera starts to record the movement of the stars. Pretty amazing feature. Here you can select the recording length and the export type. You can either select a Starlapse video or a star trail photo. I would go for a video just to save some time later on, and I don't need to do that much in post. The next feature we're going to look at is Timelapse. Right here you can select the color profile, the field of view, and you can go to a resolution of up to 11K. And you can't select a different frame rate than 30 frames per second. So you can move here to see how it looks like. And then, that is important, I can select the interval duration. I can go for a maximum of 2 minutes. And here's my advice to you. Anytime something happens really quick, you're getting together the ingredients for your morning routine, vegan breakfast, go for a short interval. If you're reconstructing your house and you're making the garden today, go for a longer interval. Select 30 seconds or a minute. And what the camera does is it's combining all the photos that it was taken into a final video. If I have a wonderful day outside with some clouds, blue skies, and I just want to get a nice looking time lapse, I would probably go for either 15 or 30 seconds. And I'm missing the 15 or 20 second right there, Insta360. Active HDR, as I said earlier, during HDR photos you can do also HDR video. Looks really amazing, to be honest, and the only thing which is different compared to a video is you're restricted to maximum 30 frames per second and you cannot record in 8K, instead you have to use 5.7K. And overall the video looks more dynamic than a normal video. Slow motion is called bullet time on Insta360. You have two resolutions to choose from, 5.7K with up to 120 frames per second, or 3K with 240 frames per second. Therefore, you require an extra device which is called bullet time. That's the selfie stick that you might have already, the invisible selfie stick, and that small stick which can be also used as a tripod and that spins around you. And then you get these kind of crazy shots. They look pretty amazing, and that's bullet time. Many people ask me what's the difference between time-lapse and TimeShift. Let's start with the settings. The maximum resolution is 8K. It uses 30 frames per second. Or you can use 5.7K with also 30 frames per second. It depends a bit on you. If you would like to get more details, go for 8K. If you don't require that many details, go for 5.7K. A TimeShift is a video which is just played back faster afterwards. So the camera records the entire time a video without skipping any frames in between. While on a time lapse, it's skipping the scenes between your pre-selected duration. And on a time shift, it's not skipping anything. So later on in post, you can select if you would like to play back that video in 10x, 15x or up to 60x speed. You can go also for a loop recording up to 8K 30 frames per second, 5.7K 60 frames per second, or even 4K with 60 frames per second. Loop recording limits the time the camera is recording, and you can select if you would like to get no limit, then you don't need basically a loop recording, or you select 30 minutes or 1 minute or 3 minutes. Let's assume you would like to do your best stunt that you can get with your mountain bike, but you need to try it several times and you don't want to have a video of a length, let's say 30 minutes, then go for a loop recording, start the video, you've done the stunt, then you can stop the video, and the overall time the camera takes that video is limited to 3 minutes. That's it. If I go back and click on album, you can see all the clips that we took already during our holiday in Southern Europe. These ones are the scenes that we just took together here inside my small office. I can select multiple of them. I can delete them from the memory card. I can download them onto my phone. I can highlight them, or I can share them straight away. Let's say I don't need these ones anymore, I can delete them. This morning I was on my way with my car, and here is a video that I took. Of course you can see the suction cup because it's not by Insta360 and it's not an invisible suction cup. That would be so amazing. But as you can see, I'm driving here with my Audi. And that I can also zoom out, so I get a tiny planet function. That's 5.7K with 50 frames per second. I can trim the video. I can select a format. So if I would like to go for 9:16, that's here. If you would go for 16:9, that's here. You can select also 1:1, typical square for Instagram, or this ultra panoramic view. Most of the time I go for 9:16 or 16:9. I can add some clarity, as you can see here on the roof. Color plus, if I would like to get more dynamic into my video or my photo. I can add some music. I can turn down the volume of that clip. I can add motion ND. That's pretty cool. If I would have filmed myself from the side, I can select a different speed for that clip. Then I got multi-view, which is pretty cool because I can now go for the upper part of that screen and I can say, okay, I would like to film to the front, and on the lower portion of that screen I would like to film from the back. That is also pretty amazing if you do live conferences and speak to other people, for instance. I won't go through all of them, but one thing that I wanted to show you are the filters. In my point of view, Insta360 has the best filters out there for action cameras. You have sport, style, city, nature, and many more, and they look so damn good. You should try them definitely, and as you can see, it doesn't really matter if you have selected them before recording, you can do that also after recording. And something I wanted to share with you is, on our way back from Austria, I recorded a clip which was this one here. So this one here was the normal clip. As you can see, we're sitting here in a car, and if you're wondering what these green circles are, if I would select them now, the camera tracks that portion. So if you have there a face, the camera will keep that tracked. I will show you that in a second. But something I was really impressed about was that I can go on AI, and now the camera has generated a clip by itself. It changed the speed sometimes of that clip, and it added some music. It did all that by itself. Let me show you this very quick. Isn't that amazing? I didn't do anything except for just using that clip and pushed the AI button. I can export that file, and in here I can either go for a flat video, so not a 360-degree video, that it's a flat one, so I can share that straight with my friends. I can go for the bitrate. Frame rate is fixed on this one here because I have selected this before recording, with a maximum resolution of 4K. This one here is the selfie mode. I'm holding the selfie stick in a 90-degree angle to myself, and it's not recording the selfie stick because this is hidden by the camera itself, so it ignores that. Maybe you're wondering if you could use that camera also with just one lens and not two lenses, so like a normal action camera. This is possible if you select this icon right here. So if I push this one, you can see that I'm recording in a 150-degree angle, either in this direction, or I use the other camera and record in a 150-degree angle into the other direction. But I'm more limited to all the features that the camera had in a 360-degree space. Because right here, if I select these bars, you can see where we cannot record now a Starlapse, Timelapse, TimeShift, for instance. I got a selfie mode, loop recording, normal video, normal photo, and free frame. Free frame is a video where you can select in post if you would like to go for horizontal or a vertical clip. It takes a huge amount of data. However, if you would like to be more free in terms of, oh, I am not sure if I would like to do an Instagram reel out of it, or a YouTube Shorts or TikTok, or if I would like to upload it to YouTube later on in a 16:9 format, you can go for free frame. Here's the resolution, frame rate, and ratio. If I go for a video mode, as you can see right here, the maximum resolution is 4K with up to 60 frames per second. Since we're not here in a 360-degree space, I need to select my ratio beforehand. If I would like to go for 16:9 or 9:16, and that gives me now 150-degree field of view. Photo mode, you don't have 72 megapixels anymore, you have only 36. Only 36, yeah, still sufficient. And that was the Insta360 app. Now let's jump to the camera. The first thing you need to do is, once you switch on the camera for the first time using this upper button right here, the power button, if you push that for a second, the camera will switch on. If the battery is charged, you need to select your language. Let's go for English. And then you're ready to shoot. If you push on this icon right here, you can jump between all the modes that I just showed you on the app. Yes, you can see they're all the same. You have loop recording, bullet time, time shift, time lapse, HDR, and video. If you would like to change the resolution or the frame rate, you push on this icon right here. I can go for 8K with up to 30 frames per second. I can go for 5.7K with up to 60 frames per second, or 4K with up to 100 frames per second. Let's select 5.7K, which I usually use. And as I said earlier, if I would have a more fluent video, I would either go for 60 or 50 frames per second. And if I would like to get the best low light performance, I would probably select 25 or 30 frames per second. Most of the time for me, 25 frames per second is sufficient. Here's the battery remaining, the time of recording you have. I can select the field of view right here. If I go for a manual exposure, I can swipe from the right to the left and go into manual mode, and here I can select the color profile, the exposure, the ISO, and many more things. If I swipe from the left to the right, here's my playback menu. I can delete this clip, I can mark this clip, I can download the clip straight onto my phone, or if I push on the play button, I can move through the video while it's being playback. That's a nice feature if you would like to control what you have just recorded. And if you would like to see all the files, you need to push on this icon right here, and then you can jump between those. And if you have recorded something that you don't need anymore, you can select multiple things and delete it, download it to the phone, or mark it. Let me jump to the photo mode, and as you can see here, it's the same principle anytime you do it. I can go for 72 megapixels or 18 megapixels. I can select a timer. We can go also for HDR photo. Two choices of resolution, 18 and 72, timer of 3 seconds, manual exposure, interval photo, burst mode, Starlapse. Starlapse is something I would control using the app or the camera. And as you can see, just to give you an idea of how this menu here works, it will record 18 megapixel photos and it will combine them later on through the app. Here I can select the duration, let's say 3 hours, 5 hours, even 10 hours are possible. Wow, that's a lot, I didn't even notice that. Or I leave it to infinity, timer to run away from the camera. And if I swipe from the right to the left, here are your settings for the manual exposure. Of course, you can leave it in auto if you don't have any clue about exposure, ISO, white balance, and so on. But if I would record the night sky with all the nice stars passing by, I would use minimum 20 seconds as an exposure time. And the more light and the more ambient light you have, the lower the ISO needs to be. Bullet time, not much to say about it because the menu is always the same. You can select your resolution and the frame rate is limited right here. TimeShift. As you see, you can select the resolution, the frame rate, and right here you can select the speed beforehand, which you cannot do at the moment using the app, but that doesn't really matter because you can do it in post. Anyways, you can select in post if you would go for 60x, 10x, or let's say 15x, so the camera forgives you these kind of mistakes that you could possibly make. If you would like to jump to the settings, they are right here. As you can see, if I don't want to have the menu flipped all the time, if I flip the camera, I can stop the rotation on this icon, I can lock the screen, I can adjust the brightness of that screen. If you have attached the lens guards to that camera, you can tell the camera beforehand which type of lens guards you have attached. There are the standard lens guards or the premium lens guards, no lens guards, or the camera should detect it by itself if you go for auto. And there is also a small description to it, and since I'm using the premium lens guards, I get the small icon right here for premium. Screen reader, as you can see, the camera warns you anytime you start shooting, switching the mode, so it says photo mode, video mode, or it gives you an indication, a voice command that the battery is low. I don't need that function, so I switch it off. Here are the beep tones, they are set to medium. AI Highlight Assistant, as you can see, there's a small description to it. AI will analyze video highlights during filming for faster editing on the app. Camera power consumption and temperature may increase. So keep that in mind, but if you switch on the AI Assistant, the camera knows already while you record a video if something cool happened during recording. which makes it more easy to do post-editing using the app. Gesture control, super nice feature. There are two types of recording. So if you do this kind of thing, the camera starts to record a video. If you do it again, it stops to record a video. And if you would like to take a photo, you need to do this with your two fingers. And this is a pretty cool feature if you cannot touch the camera. Then we got voice control. You're pretty limited to what you can tell the camera. Take a photo, start recording, stop recording, mark that, or shut down. And it's only available in 3 languages. But I'm pretty sure if you would like to use it during snowboarding with your gloves on, with your phone in your pocket, and the camera set on the invisible selfie stick, I think you can remember those 5 commands. This icon here stands for QuickCapture. Usually, if I turn off the camera, the way to turn it on is to push the power button. Then the camera turns on, and it usually starts in the last mode that we were in. Let's go for video mode. If I shut down the camera and I don't want to use that much energy on that day while I walk through New York, but I see now something of importance to me which I want to record, I can push this trigger button right here. The camera starts to record immediately without switching it on first. If I push that button again, the camera saves that video and it switches off again. So that saves a lot of battery if you don't want to have your camera on at all times. Let's switch it on the normal way. And the difference between QuickCapture in the past and QuickCapture nowadays is that you can select the shooting mode. If the camera should start to record immediately in active HDR, should immediately take a photo, HDR photo, a burst, a time shift, or a video. If it should start with a single lens, or if it should start in a 360-degree field of view. Then you can tell the camera, hey, if you start already recording a video, please do it in 5.7K with 25 frames per second. And please do it straight away with maybe a filter on it or this kind of exposure. So in the past you couldn't select these kind of parameters. Pre-recording saved the video for 10 to 30 seconds before you press the button, ensuring you don't miss any highlights. The last function on this page is called timed capture. Such a pretty cool feature. Let's say you're sleeping in your tent somewhere and you place the camera around you because it will be a nice night sky. And you don't want to wake up at 2:30 in the morning to take a nice time lapse. Then you can tell the camera, hey camera, please do it for me. Take a Starlapse. Please, here are the settings I would like to have. Then you go to bed and the camera turns on at 2:30 in the morning and it does what you have told the camera previously. Or you're thinking that your neighbor is walking through your garden while you're not at home, or you have some fancy animals passing through your garden anytime in the morning, let's say at 5:30, and say you would like to see that for 1 hour what was happening in there. You tell the camera, please do a video, a 360-degree video in 8K please, because I would like to get the maximum resolution. Then you go to bed and the camera will turn on at 5:30 and shoot a video for 1 hour of your garden. On the next page we can switch off the LED, which you can see here and probably on the other side. Here are some audio settings. If you would like to see what they are for, you have a small description. If you would like to get the audio from your Bluetooth headsets, you can pair them with your camera. You can also pair that camera to your Bluetooth remote, and you can customize your video settings for snowboarding, for cycling, for motorbiking, for hiking, whatsoever, and you can save them as a custom preset in here. I'll show you that in a second. Let's go through settings very quick. Here's the camera info. If you would like to format your SD card, you can do that right here. Auto power off. Never 3 minutes, 5 minutes. I selected 3 minutes. Customize button. And one point I have selected on is Bluetooth wake up, because it's a nice feature. Yeah, place the camera somewhere and you can wake it up with your phone if your phone is in the area of your camera. So you don't need to go to the camera all the time, switch it on, connect it to your phone. You can do that straight away by waking up the camera with your phone. If you would like to do a camera reset and to get back all these prompts and tips there popping out, you can do that right here. Time, date, and you can change the language. And if you have connected an external microphone with the Insta360 microphone adapter, and if you think that it's always a bit weak, then you can use a higher decibel value, 3 and 6. And if you think, oh well, it's always too loud, you can go for -6, -12 and -18 decibels. Two buttons we haven't talked about yet is this button right here. If you push this button, you can see that I can jump between a 360 degree and a single lens mode very quick. I can jump between modes, and we spoke about these modes already, even with that single lens. As you can see, now I'm filming just this side, and if I would like to turn the camera in my direction, I can now do that with a maximum resolution of 4K with 60 frames per second. And there is one more button, which is this one here below the power button. And in here you have some customized presets. So you can, for instance, tell the camera, so anytime I'm sitting on my motorbike, I would have a 360 degree video. I would like to have a higher resolution with 30 frames per second, and I would like to have a flat color profile for that. And you can save these settings to save some time later. Now we have selected the hiking mode, and then the camera would record in 8K with 30 frames per second. And if I jump back to this point right here, I can customize these kind of presets. That was the Insta360 X4. The Insta360 Studio app, guys, and I would like to show you that very quick. So we were in Europe and I took a lot of files for you actually, and just to give you a small idea what is possible using the Insta360 Studio app, here are some files that I took for you. You might see some file types that you haven't seen before. So let's take, for instance, this type here, place it onto the left side inside the Studio app, and as you can see, I can move out, I can move in, I can move myself here in that 360 degree space. If I zoom out, it looks kind of a tiny planet. As you can see, I can move in that 360 degree space. I have attached the 3-meter selfie stick, and if you zoom in, you can see lots of details actually. And let's assume I would like to have exactly that type of frame exported. I can do that right here. So I can decide if I would like to export a reframe video, or if I would like to export a 360 degree video. If you export the 360 degree file, you have to later on tell in a different software like Premiere Pro or Final Cut or DaVinci Resolve what kind of view you would like to have. So if you would like to be more free afterwards, export it in a 360 degree video. And if you just need that field of view that we see now, you can export it as a reframed video. You can adjust the bitrate, you can also adjust the resolution, and then you press on export. That was in Graz, Austria, as you can see here on that river. And it looks like if a drone would fly over us. The cool thing about the 360-degree camera is that you can do everything in post. For instance, I can set now a key point in which I tell the camera, in here I would like to see this. On the next key point I would like to have, for instance, a different field of view, or I would like to have a tiny planet. If you would like to delete the key points, just press on them, hit the X, and as you can see, let's try out this feature. This is called Deep Track, and then the camera is tracking me. So it's analyzing how I move, it keeps tracking me, and this is super nice for post-editing because the camera keeps you always in track. You can also select a different format, like this is typical 1:1, 9:16 if you do more vertical content. Complete panoramic looks also quite stunning here on that scenery here in Graz, Austria. 3:4, and usually I go for 16:9 because I do my videos for YouTube. You can also add some motion ND, as you can see here how it looks. So the background is blurred out when you're moving. It makes a lot of sense if you film a car, for instance. And if you see one of these files here, these ones are some 360-degree images. As you can see, I can zoom out. I can change the field of view. So here's a tiny planet. I can zoom in, and as you see all these kind of details here on such a small camera. I can zoom out once again. I can select the format, and down here you can see the type of image you could get. So here's a tiny planet. This is a mega image, and if you would like to have all these edges here tightened, you can select D-Wrap. And here is a full panoramic image on that lake in Austria. In this case, I would probably go for ultra, leave it by 16:9, or let's take the full scenery like this. And then you can hit the export button right here. And as you can see, you can export it also as a 360-degree image or a reframed image with that expected file size. You can also add some motion to your images by using the animated function right here, so you don't need to do anything in post because the software is doing it all by itself. And you can see what each type of animation does. You can also add a logo to your image or to your video. You can add some color plus or some clarity. And that's all in one software. And the software allows you to do many more things that we probably discuss in a different video, but that's for now. So I hope you enjoyed watching this tutorial. If you do have any further questions, make sure to leave a comment below. Make sure to subscribe. And if you think this video helped you a lot, make sure to get the camera, the extra battery, the memory card, or the selfie stick using the link provided in the video description below. See you next time und tschüss.